The ability to work from anywhere inspires many daydreams, and I think it's time to stop daydreaming and start planning. Hi, it's Kayla here from Writing From Nowhere, and today we're going to go through the 5 steps that you need to take to plan your perfect workcation. Now, a workation isn't the same as the digital nomad lifestyle where you quit your apartment, live in a backpack, and travel indefinitely. This is for people who can work online and work from anywhere, but rather than working from your couch, you take it on the road. You create that contrast from your normal life while you're still maintaining your normal day-to-day working activity. There are 5 steps to plan the workation that you actually want to have. So let's start with number 1, where to go. There's really no wrong destination for your workation, but you need to think about what you want to see and experience whenever you close the lid of your laptop for the day. Do you want to see a bustling city? Do you want something quiet, removed? Do you want nature, urban, a new cultural experience? It's important to choose a destination based on what it's like just to be there, because if you are working all day from 9 to 5, then you are not going to be out exploring ruins, visiting museums, at a restaurant for hours every day. You are not going to be traveling. You're going to be working, and then in the evening or late afternoon, whenever you close your computer, you're going to do an experience. What? Choosing your workation destination is not about excursions, hikes, activities. It is about experience of being there. And the best experience you can create for yourself is contrast from your daily life at home. And to talk a little bit more about this is past Kayla from being on a workation in Greece 3 months ago. So these are my final days in Greece, and I'm thinking about the contrast and how I think that's the most therapeutic part of this entire experience, knowing that we're going home to something so different. The contrast of our surroundings is so intense. I think that's been the number 1 factor in how enjoyable this trip has been. If you're not going to create contrast from your normal life at home, then why go? Why spend the money? Why pack, uproot, go, rearrange your schedule? The next factor in planning your workation is deciding where to stay. And there are 4 really important things to look for whenever you're planning this. First, it needs fast internet. This every day ruins a trip. And everyone will say that they have fast internet, but I recommend asking your Airbnb host or the hotel, hostel, whatever your accommodation is, ask them to test their internet speed. I have a link for you in the description. It makes a huge difference. Your accommodation also needs to be quiet, especially if you're on video calls. A lot of racket in the background is going to create annoyance for clients, whoever it is that's on the receiving end, and it might even make it impossible for you to work. So look for people who advertise that their accommodation is quiet in their description. Look for reviews that mention that something was quiet or that it was really loud, and look for accommodations that are on the first floor, especially in busy, bustling areas. You don't want noise in the day or the night. You don't want to sleep badly, and you also don't want to have your focus and Zoom calls ruined during the day. You also need a workstation, a real workstation, a desk and a chair, not working from the bed or working from a couch. Those things are fine for a day or a week, but whenever you're picking an accommodation specifically with the intent to work from there, you do not want to be sitting hunched up on the couch all day. It's not a good place for your posture, your focus, and it's not a good place to have video calls if you have to with your team for people to see you sitting in bed in an Airbnb somewhere. A real workspace is going to help you be significantly more productive and help you with that mindset. There are a few alternatives to a real workstation. I think it's worth it to pick an accommodation that suits what you really need to do because, you know, you're picking and you're paying and you might as well. But if you find an amazing accommodation that doesn't have a workstation, you can go to restaurants, bars, cafes. It depends on the culture. Is it okay to buy a coffee and sit there for hours working? So you need to do some research there. You can also go to a co-working space. That becomes more costly. Or you can look for libraries and free options. And speaking of cost, your accommodation needs to have a kitchen, a real kitchen, where you can buy and store groceries, cook all of your meals, and not need to go out for every single meal. Now that you know what you need to look for in your workcation accommodation, it's time to talk about when to go. And there's really no bad time to go on a workation, but there are clear benefits to different times of the year. When you visit somewhere in peak season, you see it in all of its glory. You see what it's known for. But low season doesn't mean that you don't see any of the glory. You also experience fewer tourists and way reduced costs. You can often get Airbnbs for half price, maybe even more whenever you go in low season. And there are also fewer distractions. You take a workation to work and then enjoy something else different between those working hours. So you are not going to be on the beach all day if you go in summer anyway. So why not go in winter whenever the beaches are less ideal and still enjoy the region for everything it has to offer, but have fewer distractions. One warning to low season travel though, research the specific area and make sure that there is not a hazard that causes the low season. So I'm thinking of hurricane season, tornado season. This is something worth researching before you book an accommodation. Sometimes there's a very good reason for the lack of tourists, but more times than not, there's no reason not to go. And once you see the super cheap Airbnb prices, you will be ready to book right now. This apartment in Lisbon is $71 a night in July, but if we change those dates to October, we see the price drop to $27 a night. And this might be obvious, so let me show you an even hotter tip. Go to the Airbnb homepage, select your location, but whenever you get to check-in dates, select I'm flexible and then the entire month. Airbnb is now going to show you massive discounts for monthly rentals, sometimes $1,000 off, sometimes half price. These deals are incredible and you don't normally see them whenever you book the other way. The next step for planning your workation is deciding how long to go, and given that tidbit, I'm going to say go for a month. There's no point in going somewhere for a week or definitely not a weekend. I recommend that you go for a month and also put 2 or 3 days of buffer on both ends of your trip. Adding this buffer in protects you from having your workation, something going wrong, and then impacting your work. And also just to settle in. You want to have time to do those touristy things in the beginning. A workation is work, but you're not going to see nothing. You still want to explore and get out and make time to enjoy where you're at. The last step in planning your workation is deciding what to pack. And something that's really important, that's really different from normal traveling, is that on a workation, comfort and morale matter a lot. And you don't need to rough it like you normally do for travel. You want to have all of those comforts of your day-to-day life that you're not really willing to sacrifice. And I have a few things that I'm going to show you that I always pack, even if I'm doing carry-on only travel. I take my Cotopaxi with me on most trips, and it's 35 liters, and these all make the cut. So coffee maker, this is the Travel AeroPress. I'll put links to all of this stuff in the description. This never gets left behind. Also a good knife for cooking. So, I mean, good, it was like $4 from TJ Maxx, but it has a sheath. This goes in Barryon's bag. We check one bag. Highly recommend if you're cooking. Why do Airbnbs always have the dullest knives in the whole world and the most suspicious cutting boards? So I have a tiny square cutting board that I take on every trip everywhere. So these 3 things make a huge difference. And in terms of remote work, I bring my laptop stand. This folds flat and then it pops up. It's really small. A lot of people have these like big mechanical laptop stands, and I don't think that they're very practical if you're actually traveling very often. And talking about not being practical, this is the most extra remote work item, but I even bring a little lamp. So I have a little travel lamp that I bring everywhere and use this whenever I'm working. Think about these little things for yourself, and it's okay if you don't know. On your first workation, you're going to be figuring things out for yourself, and do your research. I'll drop all of my packing lists for remote work in the description bar. A lot of them are about digital nomad travel, so whenever you're actually moving all the time and you're doing this long term, but the same rules apply. And if you're interested in talking about the digital nomad lifestyle or more about working and traveling, give this video a like or a comment so that I know to keep making this kind of content. I hope that these steps made it really clear how to plan your workation, and I have even more details for you in a blog post that I'll link in the description. I'm so excited for you to plan your trip and go and experience all of the highs, lows, and in-betweens of working from anywhere. So drop any questions that you have in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe if you want to see more content like this. I'm so glad that you're here and that we can be friends. Thanks for coming.